You hate
Well,
to get him up and
pretty sure.
Saw
answer the
Tristan as I was
phone.
leaving.
Yes, I've asked her to come in for a whip.
This is like waiting for the start of the. All right, I would like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. On time, look at that. That's perfect. Like to go ahead. Yeah. Well, he has first say, so. Welcome to our meeting today. Thank you all for being here and welcoming those who are visiting as well today. I got a bunch of stuff to go through today, so we'll go ahead and keep this moving so y'all can get back to what you were doing. First order of business is going to be the adoption of the agenda that you have before you. I'll entertain a motion to do so if there's no changes. Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next order of business will be the approval of the minutes. You have your April 26, 2018 minutes in your packet. Consideration for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes carry. Okay. All right, we have today our section for item number 5, which is our budget public hearing. The notifications have been printed in the Daily News, and the public hearing on the Tourism Development Authority budget is set for today. Glenn, do you have any comments before we enter in?
As part of our presentation, this is the same slide that we have shown before. This is all this budget does is simply give you the estimated revenue, and then the administrative fee, then the net for distribution, what's in the pink money for promotion, and what's in the green money for that. This budget does not set out expenditures. It just simply says, here's, what your item is. And after your public hearing and action, you can then move from those amounts into the approved columns, and you can vote on it should you desire to do so. But this is the time for your public hearing, sir.
Thank you, Glenn. Now we'll recess the regular meeting and open our public hearing. Do we need a motion, John, for that? No. Okay. Is anyone here to speak on the budget? Okay. Please go to the podium, state your name, address for the record.
Pat Walker, 140 Denise Drive, Jacksonville. We had brought a presentation on the Visitor Center in Lejeune Memorial Gardens. And a couple of weeks ago, they had a reunion out there for, and I believe it was HML 167. At that time, there was a picture left out there of a group of gentlemen who were killed in a helicopter crash. We took that picture and researched the people who were in it, contacted what family members we could find, and put together this little booklet called Honor the Fallen. We have history of all of them, when they died, how old they were, and where they're buried, and a little bit from the family. And there's also some other pictures, and I'm going to pass it around and let you look at it. We're going to do this with as many of the artifacts that was left at the Vietnam Memorial as we can, and they'll permanently be on display in the Visitor Center.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on the budget? Okay. There's no one else here ready to speak. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting. Glenn, is there any?
And Mr. Chairman, that you can now consider the adoption of the ordinance. It is included in your package there on page 13.
Yeah,
And it has-
13, item number 6, I guess.
Yes, sir. And that is something, adoption to the authority now. Obviously, if you don't adopt it today, we will need to adopt it before the end of June, and you could call a special meeting to do that, should you desire to do so.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there any discussion or any questions regarding the budget that was presented that we've actually talked about?
I
Okay.
move that we adopt the budget ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, budget ordinance passes. Okay, next order of business is going to be item number 7, which is located on page 15. It's the annual contract to perform the audit for the authority. The proposal from the firm and other information is attached before you. We will need a motion to approve the audit contract if there's no questions.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next order of business is going to be the update on the Heroes Welcome Center. Basically, you all know that at our last meeting, we talked about the Hero Center and, or the Welcome Center. We talked about naming it the Hero Center. I think it was your suggestion, but we agreed to supply the extra funding if needed. But some of the leadership at City Council decided that the cost of the facility was too high, and we decided to postpone and wait till the climate gets a little bit more attractive in terms of getting better bids. So City Manager Dr. Woodruff, I believe, is working on some maybe working with James Sawyer to look at other options, or maybe rebidding at a later date.
Those have come back and basically indicated that he felt that there were not a substantial number of things that could be done to lower it. And he reflected on that the bids were kind of in line with what was coming in his area.
In the market.
In the market there, and so that's when the decision was made to just kind of hold it for a while as it was. I toward it in as a footnote. We have included that in your proposed spending plan just to carry that money into the next year.
Keep it aside until, and it may, And maybe in the future, if bids come in lower, we won't need to subsidize that additional monies, but we'll deal with that at that particular time. So that's the decision that was made. Any comments or any questions in regards to that?
I would just comment that there's no rush to do this. I know everybody would like to see it as quickly as possible, but with those bids, I would hope that, climate does change. If it doesn't, then we'll have to bite the bullet and move on.
Randy, anything? Good, okay. All right, item number 9, strategic work of the authority. The strategic initiative plan, draft was presented on March 29th, and it's been further developed and is presented for your review. It's on page 27. And what we would ask is that I'll ask Glenn to go through it with us, and then we will need direction from there. Glenn?
We'll make a quick review of it because it reflects into how you will look at the spending plan and to see how it is that we came to look at our spending plan for what it is. It's a 4-page document in there, but it really does define for the first time to us a comprehensive plan of how we're going to be spending things and such there. This is part of the evolution of what it is that we're doing. Now, note that when we came together this year, we wanted to be extraordinarily collaborative. That's why, our partners were at the table and that we were involved in trying to make sure that there were some things they better handle than we might better handle on some other things and such as that. And we wanted a very strategic package that looked at here's how we can actually see the meter move. Here's some things that we can do. And we looked at the budget, the spending plan that we had to decide that we can do something and we have a means of trying to fund it as it was too. We did notice that there have been some outcomes. Obviously, tourism is up. I mean, it's actually, you can look at the collection report and see that it's advanced in some places higher than what we had in the famous year of FY11 as it was. And we have some testimonials now that we had not had before about what drives some of those overnight stays. And of course, 14,500 room nights we can attribute to the spending of TDA over the time that we've been doing this with some of the projects and programs that we have done. We, as a group, decided that keep telling the story is one of the most powerful things because that story to place, that is a powerful motion that you can see where people want to come see where these stories took place and what they are as it was. And obviously, an example of that has been the tourism that's been generated as a result of the Montford Point Marine Association and the activities associated with them. We know from our digital influencers that we drove business to cruise the river and doing things like that as it was. There's several other examples, but they are some that just came to our mind as a result thereof. And obviously our respect for our military heroes that we live and work with every day. We want to continue that as everything that we do. And obviously that to invite everyone who comes to our community to receive a hero's welcome. This year is unique. The 35th anniversary of the Beirut bomb blast will be observed this year. It's the 20th year of the New River restoration, a celebration on the river as to what cleanup efforts have been made and what are still being done. There's still a search for unrecognized Montford Pointers, and there will be at least 2 of them that will be recognized this year and perhaps more. And the base is typically has opened the 4th of July to the public. We're partnering with them to advance that as a come be with us, come stay the night at our lodging facilities and to see how a military base celebrates the 4th of July. So the other part is that we came to the conclusion pretty early, but it was something we needed to say to market the area as a whole. Whereas before we had concentrated on Jacksonville lodging facilities and Jacksonville destinations, the Bargain Beach promotion was one of the items that came to show if we tie to say, come spend the night in Jacksonville lodging facilities, you can get a price that's less in some cases than what you might find at the beach. And there are also reasons to be here that you can visit and shop and eat in a unique way. And then the target meeting room users, this is something that we're advancing this year as a start, and we hope to build this project on into the future as it is. And the Sports Development Fund, we want to value that fund as lubricant and as something that people can take action with that drives overnight stays directly. And that food and dining, we are constantly hearing that this is what drives many people to the Visit NC website at the state level, and that they see so much travel and tourism celebrated around food and dining. And so when we have some unique restaurants here in Jacksonville, why would we not want to talk about that and the distillery and other things that are there? And then, as I mentioned about the New River, we have those experiential activities. We have the fishing and canoeing, kayaking, hunting, things like that that we can also do. We have races that mimic marine training, and we're not having to do anything to make them happen. And of course, we talk about that retired Marine hosted river cruise that people want to hear that type of experience. We want to deepen the partnerships that we have with our partners. We also want to increase the awareness of what it is that we're doing. One of the small things is obviously we sent out to you folks earlier this month some information about what was happening, some programs we were working on, some things that were happening that weekend. And we want to do more to document our partner feedback and work on database development. One of the things we heard from the Columbus, Georgia people, they capture all the addresses of those people who come for reunions. They invite them to come back at another time. Those are people who already know what you have, and they just need to have some persuasion to perhaps come back, that there's some other event that they'd like to be a part of it as it is too. And on the collaboration, we're working to deepen our relationship with Coast Hosts and the military reunion projects as it is. Those are kind of the things that we're working on from that. We did discover, as we mentioned before, that there's some activities that occur in our community that they have now reached capacity. They cannot put any more people in the space that they have. And that's something that we're going to have to work on. We will be building more messages about the outdoor enjoyment. Now, what this means is in our digital influencer arena, in our website, our Facebook post, these will carry messages about these type of activities, sports and events and military and all those things that are on point to what the changes should be made. And to the end of that, the tour development now is really working out. We will say Lisa and Maribito and her efforts at getting these military reunions in here. Many of us have sweated a pretty good pint there, giving these tours and working out there to try to get that done. And we've involved some people that are working with us on helping to develop the docent program. And we think that really demonstrates hospitality. Some of the feedback we've gotten, of course, obviously Donna and Laurette can speak more to it, is about these reunions, now that we're involved at this level, are feeling that hospitality. They know what it is now to receive that hero's welcome, and that is important to us in that point. Some of the work to be done is that we've got to create that invitation to extend their stays. We've got to make something happen, and that was what we always envisioned about the tour of the gardens, about other things that are out there. But we've got to make that message out there and push those reunions with that unmatched hospitality. That was a word we got when we went down to see our friends in Columbus, Georgia. They are known for their hospitality in the military field. We're gonna seek to surpass that, as it was, and which is a tall mountain. But target bargain travelers. This is something that you heard Judy Randall say when we did the Randall travel marketing study. She feels that that is a market that Jacksonville has not really captured, is the bargain people who want that rate. And of course, the retirement. We'd like to see more people retire here. And this is something that we can work with. Now, previously we put before you about joining the North Carolina Retirement Program. And if you recall, it was a $10,000 entry fee. We don't really think we need to do that. We think that we can get a lot of association. We pay the non-certified member fee and still get that out. Help me on this, but as I remember, it's between 5 and 6 times that someone visits a community before they decide to retire there. That's good. They can stay in our lodging facilities. They can see what's there. It gives them opportunity to do stuff. And the meeting business, that business, that what we're doing now with military reunions, working on that meeting business, we have some venues now that can create that type of overnight stay that'll really build that effort as it is too. So how will we know whether we've done some success? Well, you'll see higher numbers. You'll see this effort go up. You'll see more group visits more people will be sweating outside. More visits to our website, more Facebook followers, and more placements that's out there as it was. And so basically, to fund this, we've put together a strategic plan that actually finances this in such a way it puts the meat out there as to what it is to be done here. Because a lot of this is simple, is work that must be done by someone to get these things written, to get these things placed, to get these things out there, and to make sure that there's this common measure of what it is that we're saying runs throughout it about receive a hero's welcome, and to share those visitors' experiences. So from that, we wanted to just go right into the point of talking to you about some of the marketing and media updates. And one of them is obviously the Visit Jacksonville Only in Onslow travel guide. And so we're going to show a couple of pages from that. I know Laurette and probably Donna's like me. We've seen this a lot. But
And I've only been here not even a month yet.
So it is. So I'm going to turn the clicker over to Ms. Teresa there to share with us some of these things that are out there, because Viamark has had a leadership role in helping to put this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. So as you know, we've been working on this for quite some time, and the collaboration with the county has been fabulous. We have the entire county is what we want to promote in this guide. So the purpose of the guide is targeting travelers that have yet to come to the area. Sometimes they reach out ahead of time, or it could be for the traveler that is in the market and looking for things to do while they're here, and we can use it to entice them to come back if they didn't get to do everything they wanted to do. The travel guide will live on the TDA website. It will live on the county tourism website, as well as in the airport. They get asked regularly for this type of thing. It will be in North Carolina visitor centers, in the chambers, and so we will be getting it out there. And so that's a good, this is a key indicator. This guide will be a key indicator as to the intent of the traveler. So if they're downloading the guide, we know that they're interested in the area. So inside the guide, just we'll give you a quick overview. One of the most popular things, you have to have a map. People want to get their bearings when they get there. GPS is great to get from point A to point B. But what people want to know is, where can I eat and what can I do? That's the most important thing. It's huge in the travel industry, as Glenn said. So here's an example of just what the guide will look like. In each section that we have, each of the sections will be geographically listed. The areas will be geographically listed. So in other words, they can figure out what they're going to do in Jacksonville, Swansboro, Sneads Ferry, Richlands, etc. This is an example of the shopping guide and how that will look, again, listed by area. The next thing is, what can people do when they're here? So we've got an entire section dedicated to get out and explore. So all the gardens are listed with descriptions of the gardens. We also entice them with a paragraph on each one about the annual observance or a ceremony that's held, so that people are encouraged to attend. They may luck up and be here that weekend, or it may be enticing enough that they come back and want to attend something. So one of the other things, we've included this, again, this is also by geographically laid out, but one thing that we're focused on, we've got some indoor things to do and we've got some outdoor things to do. So we're highlighting that with obviously great visuals. People can do anything from kayaking to distillery visits, Mike's Farm, all the above. We have also included, we wanted to show a camping opportunity, because they can do that at Hammocks Beach. We've got several places they can camp in Onslow County, and people love it. We also are highlighting in here some of our guided fishing tours. People are very interested in that, and we've got way more than we realized, I think, in Onslow County. We've got great people that are doing river tours, as well as the saltwater tours, Swansboro and Sneads Ferry, so we're including all of those. We've given them a quick little synopsis, if you will, of our immediate neighboring towns. They might want to go to New Bern for a day trip and go to Tryon Palace, or they might go to Duplin County, one of our friends there, and check out the Duplin Winery. So we give them some quick things to do. Also, really, really big in the tourism industry is people want a suggested tour, so you give them what they want. If you're interested in history, here's all the things you can do for history. One of my favorites is the Wine, Whiskey, and Wonderful Eats. You can go to a distillery, you can go to the winery, and then you can get some great food. So it's amazing how far people travel for food. And then we come to we've listed out all of the hoteliers that contribute to the tax, to the occupancy tax. They're all listed in here in a really nice layout with all the amenities listed. So anybody looking for anything in the hotel, they can figure it out pretty quickly at a glance. The book is coming out soon. We are in final edits, making sure that everything is just right. We started this thing literally from word one from scratch, so we want it to be just as right as we can possibly get it. So we're telling you it's due out soon. Based on Donna's input, we're probably going to print 20 to 25,000 to get us through 2019. And then we'll have to revisit it. You want to update it and make all kinds of edits and additions for the next year. And we'll look at doing another one for 2020 travel season.
Very nice.
Coming soon.
We're close to.
Because I think every Welcome Center in North Carolina called my office on Tuesday wanting to know, are they in yet? Are they in yet?
Well, this is good.
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about some more of the other media placements as it is. This one was obviously we sent out in the note about the Walton's Distillery. They came down during April, and then they advanced on North Carolina Weekend, the event that they held last weekend, and I understand it was very well attended and out there. And of course, weekend before last, we had Deborah Holt Noel here to go see the Montford Point Marine Museum, and then on Sunday morning she visited with the memorial out there as it was. She's coming back in June to experience our Bargain Beach family experience. This is one of our first efforts being advanced to really push that message back out. During June 29th to July 1st, we'll bring back Joe My Gosh. Some of you might remember she's a military wife, and her husband has now left the service, but she has a blog that is very popular with spouses of deployed military. She does a lot about care packages, how to handle things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and she has a huge following as it is there. So she will go now on Bargain Beach also for our effort there. And the other one is, we mentioned that we're actually paying to have another photographer come down and take pictures. Well, the reason that is, as we said, is because while we can take good pictures, we think, if they take the pictures, they put them up on Visit NC. And we can't get that placement but through this system. So we are really pushing that in a great way there. And they'll be doing images that all of our partners will be able to use, and this will be a wonderful and great thing. And then the other things that are out there is using the media spotlight. We're using some special imagery to get that out, and we're going to concentrate on these outdoor activities that you see here. And then some of our unique dining places will be featured in some of the activities that we'll be pushing as it is too. We already have one up that's about the custom content on the web page there, and this is how it looks on a PC. It looks really, really great on a mobile device, which is obviously how a lot of this stuff is getting access now. This is an itinerary idea. You talk about a trip that you come here, you spend 3 days, here's what you can do. Of course, we want them to go visit Susan Baptist's marina down there, and to have her vendor and do special things down there as it is. But these are ways that you do that. And then the other one that we did was on Memorial Day. Come visit our memorials. And we don't know what the exact status was. We think this is one where we'll have to do this annually to kind of build that audience as it is and move forward with that as it was. And then, of course, the custom content that we've done with the Montford Point Marines, telling this story about that they're still looking for Montford Pointers that have not been recognized. This is something that is big to our deal. And Susan has pushed us hard to have a blog. And so these blogs are talking about adventures, about activities, things that we can do while you're here, reasons that you should come, et cetera, that type. It just builds more of this inventory, should you Google us, that you're going to find, and that our website has a rich content as it was. So that's what we wanted to show you, and Mr. Chairman, and we take any questions on it. Otherwise, we're willing to go into the strategic plan about how we're going to fund all this.
Thank you, Glenn. Great presentation. A lot of hard work behind the scenes. Very targeted. And thank you. Any questions, comments?
Just very impressive, very impressive.
We would like you to consider that you could either adopt that strategic initiative plan, that 14-page document in there, as our program of work. Now, that's not required, but obviously, if you did that, it would give us more credence for the work that we're doing and just kind of...
Be glad to. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there you go.
And it can be amended at any time, so should you get a deep dive in it, or some of our partners or something say, well, here's a eureka moment, we can always adjust to that. Well, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go right on into the
Please.
spending plan.
Please.
As you know, our spending plan is kind of flexible, and it lets us do that, but what we try to make sure happens is that, it follows what that strategic plan is, and you're going to see those items listed in the strategic plan. Here's how they're getting funded. Now, this is the same percentage you just saw when you adopted the budget. So we're talking pink money and green money. Here's what you spent this past year, or the current year, on the FY18 budget. And of course, these are the allocations of the green money. And obviously, you added to the 30,000, 60,000 for the Heroes Visitor Center. So that was a total of 90,000. And while Mr. Weeks and crowd they'll take care of transferring that 30,000 if it hadn't already been done, the 60,000 that you agreed to, we're putting that in this budget right now. So these are the only capital expenses that you have before you at this time, for that matter. And of course, you can make any decisions that you wish to make.
And this is all based on the direction that we've given.
So to the point of that, now we're going to look at pink money. And obviously, you generate 308,000 because we've gone down to that 33%. But we're going to take from reserve. This year, we took very little from reserve, even though we budgeted like 1.1 million. We're going to actually return most of that right back to the fund balance. So there's not that much that we have really tipped, and we'll have the final numbers of that obviously in a couple of weeks as it was there. But we're saying from the reserve this year, rather than 1.1, we're only projecting to pull down 564, 198, and so make our total spend. Now, an amount of that goes to the awards of our tourism promotion fund. We've taken our 18 different activities down to 11. Now, some of those were transferred, and you're going to hear about that, but basically, we budget for that. We leave a small reserve should something come up that you need to deal with or whatever. The administration of the fund is how we spend the money to protect the money that we give them. They get dollar for dollar for. And then a little bit of panel cost there because we bring in the panel to come in and review these things and go forward. Now, we are proposing to take the National Night Out Race and the Semper Fi Fund to Beat the Bridge and move that over to the Sports Development Fund. Because Scott and his staff can work with them to build these projects, build them as part of our sports experience, do things such as that. And it's really more appropriate that we let the sports professionals deal with them and such there. Scott has been extraordinarily collaborative in these decisions as it was. And here's how the others line up about that we are proposing for award. This is also in your document, and one of the things that we will ask you to do is, if you choose not to adopt the spending plan today, is at least adopt this so we can proceed with the things that we need to do, because obviously some of the events come up rather quickly as it is. But you'll notice those numbers are not what the numbers were in the past. We've notified the folks, and they're all willing to work with us and appreciative of the efforts as it is there. So that's for $137,000. Now, state partnerships, we put in $15,000. Again, at the conference, Laurette was right there with us when we made the decisions to what we think that we should have. They're part of our strategic effort there. Some of them we've left kind of loose that we can fine tune a little bit later on it. And, this is where she doesn't have a lot of money to use for that. we are able to use some of our money for it, and it really works as a good partnership on that as it was
Give us
there.
some examples of that.
Well, we're going to show you. That's
Okay,
it.
perfect.
But those things that you saw all with the Visit NC site, the photo
That
network and all
falls
that,
into that
all that's in
category.
that 15,000.
Okay.
It's all in that. And, just to finish that, the partner support, the 175, that's the Sports Commission and others. And then our Strategic Initiative Fund projects. Those are the items that we're going to talk to you about here in a moment. Now, the visitor experience, that's our wayfinding that's there. And we want to bring you up. We got something that just came in today. This, as you know, was the proposed to be what the sign is. And of course, it's interesting to see Sam's furniture back there. But this picture was not taken today. But this is what it would look like for the entrance to Lejeune Memorial Gardens with pilasters and things there to make it much more stately. We have presented this to the Lejeune Memorial Gardens Committee. We have also sent the more detailed plans out to engineering on the base there. And what we're getting now is lots of positive thumbs up. You notice that one of the significant things is that it takes that cement island out there and breaks that up and puts some vegetation in it so it can look a little better than, just out there, the concrete part of it is. We got the estimate.
Excuse me just a minute. Could you go back to that slide?
Yes, I can.
I just bringing this up for, I don't know. But there's nothing on that sign, and maybe there shouldn't be, for the cemetery.
Well, it's across the
Yeah.
street.
That's
No, not the city cemetery, the veteran cemetery.
Right, well,
But
that's
that's
over
on
here
the
to the
other
right.
Still across the street.
Remember, it's over here.
This is just to highlight the gardens and
Yeah,
stuff.
just the triangle piece. This is right, where now you would look this way and you would
Just
have to
see
squint,
roads.
but you'd see the Beirut Memorial sign, and if you squinted really well, you might see the wall a little bit in the winter.
But that's on the left, and
Yeah. And
the cemetery's on the right.
That's
Right.
correct.
Oh,
And the cemetery is highlighted.
oh, you mean on the sign itself?
Yes.
Right, the one on the right.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it has
I
that,
see.
yeah. But anyway, to the point, now, the input that we had to this is that the designer had, Biz Bazell, so some of you've met him, had proposed using some marble and stone from out of state. He has actually now followed a direction that we wanted to have something from our community. And so he found a vendor that has worked with Martin Marietta and with limestone, and they have done and fashioned signs out of that. And so we have a $94,000 estimate to build this sign, and with the castings and all the things that would be needed for that as it was. Now, this is obviously a budgeting, and we'll go to final design now and move
That
forward.
includes the other walls.
Yeah, the two pilasters that are out there on the side there. And they just give it weight. They just say, you're entering,
Right, it
the
creates
area.
the entrance to the right.
Yes.
Where most of us walk in.
That's
when we're
correct.
having-
That's correct. So that's out there. Now, we have modified the sign that you last looked at to get something that's flatter, something that can be done, some of it can be done in-house, some of it can be done by our local vendors and things such as that. And so we have really found to cut that. This originally came back at about, it was going to take our whole budget just to do this part of the matter there. And so now we feel like we can do a substantive number of signs by taking a flatter design, but still respect this design and still have some elements in there that makes it special as it was. And in development, in the final design on this is the Beirut Memorial Grove sign. Sometime next month, Biz will come here and he will visit with, of course, we're calling in Anthony Prince to help us with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, because obviously this is their property. And so we want to make sure that they're good with this and everything, and he has great experience, Biz Bazell does, in working with the NCDOT on that matter. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on where that is. Now, these are the key components of what our strategic initiative is. Telling our story, the reunions, the tours, sports development, enhancing that visitor experience there. And you've heard some of the notes made on that. One of them is this year, that's the third year. We get $35,000 with the chamber to help us with the reunion project. We are feeling the returns on this. We know this is going to be successful. The Sports Development Project, that's Scott and his team. This is the third year of that project that they are bringing to us additional activities every year as a result of that. The Docent Project, this is the third year of that project, and this is an adjusted amount. This is something where we're reworking this project and looking for other options there. Tour development, this is a potential cost of this. We didn't spend anything on it this year. We're keeping the budget because we have great hope. And the on-site media tours also is similarly adjusted, and we're working on that. General communications, you might recall we made a 3-year commitment on that. They had not lived up to their part of the agreement. We haven't paid them, so we're good. But we wanted to let you know that. And then website optimization, trying to get more eyes to the website that we have and working to that because that obviously benefits us in a great way there. Obviously, DK Communications, $44,000, IMARC 20 in this one. We anticipate another trip to Columbus, Georgia. We took off the list what we had last year about the Intercept, the cultural specialty firm, and some others that are in there because we're going to concentrate on the things that are a part of the strategic initiative plan right now. And then we put in $5,000 for travel and contingency because we have found that that really propels actions, is using that money to go places and to bring people here. So the Strategic Initiative Implementation Fund, this is what we spend when we have the FAM tours come in, when we do things such as that. That's that $9,000. And the Sports Development Fund, $20,000. That's that Scott can draw down from when he has bids, and he's going to talk about that in a few moments, when he has things like that, and he's going to have a little bit of extra money in there so he can help now those 2 projects that we transferred into him, so that he's going to be able to help them with that project as it is. And I just said those. So $5,000 is the special events assistance, and $50,000 is where we spend for advertising and branding. That's when we buy, space in our state, or we buy something out of Coast Host, or we do things such as that. Our billboard expenditures, all of those things come out of it when we bring in some people. That's where that comes out of that matter there, and we've never topped out of those amounts as it is. So, Mr. Chairman, that is our proposed plan for you for your strategic spending plan. Obviously, it doesn't have to be adopted, but it gives your staff instruction on how to spend money, and we would appreciate any support for giving us that would be appreciated. If you do make a motion, we do ask that you indeed approve those amounts for award as part of the Tourism Promotion Fund, and equally out of that you assign the funds to the Sports Development Fund.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
The $20,000 initiative that goes to the Sports Commission in our budget every year, if they don't use all of it,
Oh, it just goes right back into your
goes
balance.
back into our funds, and then it's back.
That's right.
to
We
them.
do not
So
write a
it's-
check and hand it
That's
to them.
used by requisition.
Yes, okay, just wanted I wanted the public to understand that too.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Any questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I move that we adopt the spending plan with the Tourism Promotion Fund and the Sports Development Fund allocations as presented.
Second, any discussion?
Yes, I want to get back to that sign, and I don't want to be belabor the point, but it appears to me, I understand that sign is going to give you directions to the right. I don't understand why the cemetery isn't on there. It should be on there.
But that's not part of the cemetery, though.
Isn't the cemetery gonna have its own?
Cemetery.
Sign.
It has its own gate and bridge and all those things.
It's going to have a blue sign like that?
No.
It already
no.
has its own.
Yeah,
I understand that. But if we're going to direct visitors throughout the city who aren't familiar with the city, and they're going to want to go to the cemetery, it
now,
appears to me.
are you speaking of the wayfinding sign or the pilaster sign?
I'm talking about the wayfarer, the blue sign.
We can take care
Yeah,
of that.
those
We can
wording
take
is
care of
not
that.
finalized on
Yeah,
those.
those-
Okay.
Yes.
I'm happy.
Yeah, no, obviously it would
I'm
have.
sorry.
All right, move on. I'm happy.
We thought you were talking about the limestone.
Talking about the
No,
limestone.
Okay.
The directional sign, the blue directional.
Now we have more understanding of what.
I'm sorry, I didn't make
That's
myself
not
plain.
final.
That happened a lot when I was working for the city too.
All right, no further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. John, do we have everything we need with that? Yes, sir. Good, okay. All right, since our last meeting, item number 11, the events since last meeting, we've had the Marine Raiders, Mud, Sweat, and Tears, the Jacksonville Jamboree. Glenn, who do you want to?
Well, as usual, you have a pretty exhaustive report in your document about the Marine Raiders program as it was there. And so we're going to let that just kind of say, I will say, at their last count, they're not having the final yet, 102 room nights, 1,100 people estimated attendance. We are now well over the 1,200 room nights that the Grand Prix Series had pledged to come out of this project. So, I mean, it's in excess of that at this point. And, you know, this one, no one questions this one at the panel because it produces results. It's done that.
Why are you not in the picture?
I would be in the mud. I would be in the mud.
I think I see his
They
head.
would have
popping
seen
out.
my little face.
I got
That was it. And I've invited Susan, we didn't go through this, so please forgive me on that. But her report's in there, but we're going to just show you a few pictures if you'd like to just chat about the little thing there as it was.
It was a beautiful day, and these are just some nice shots. We had a great turnout. Weather was much different from our current weather out there, but it was nice. We had some really good activities. All of the athletic components were fantastic. The amusements were fantastic. I will say the additional parking, that if those of you aren't familiar with the park and ride going in at the Commons Complex, it was a tremendous asset. So we're really excited about what that has to offer us in the future. So these are just some great pictures. Yeah, no, it was nice. We had over 110 food vendors, which they were all extremely pleased with their business for the day. There's a nice shot. And we had really good compliments, indoor basketball. We had the basketball different this year, was stretched over 2 weekends, one the previous weekend and one that weekend. We just felt like it would help a little bit better manage it, and split it up helped tremendous. Same number of room nights, and yeah, it's a line probably for something amusement-wise.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was very
Mine
nice.
was a lot for that wall climb.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of good food vendors. We had great feedback, and we'll have that in our final report, but we had some really great feedback from our vendors. We asked them, how was your experience? Yeah, some of the staff. How was your experience? And they really just had some good feedback on loading, and you can't underestimate the vendors' experience when they're at these events. They go to a lot of festivals, and we heard over and over what a professional job that was, because we just take pride in how their experience is as well. So we had some really nice feedback from our vendors, which was nice to hear.
Great job.
Thank you. It was a good weekend.
You do have her flash report in your document also, so it's in there. Thank you, Susan.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So up and coming, we have the July 18th, the sensational 8K beach run, which is, I guess, part of the MCCS Grand Prix
That
Series.
is correct. It's kind of an end of the season. They really don't get a lot of overnight stays from it. In fact, one of the things that's a change about that is the number of races is changing. That's why the money's going down a little bit. But the ones that produce the 1,200 overnight stays, they're still a part of it.
Okay, great. And then we have the National Night Out race and events on August 4th.
Which will now be handled by Scott and Crown.
And it'll be guaranteed to be 95 degrees and 80% humidity.
Yes.
Always.
Scott didn't know that.
I brought the bad weather when I moved here.
All right, let's move into our Sturgeon City update. Who will do that?
We're welcome to have Paula back.
Paula, you're going to give us an update?
I am going to give you guys
Welcome
an
back.
update. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today. I know Glenn and some others have been keeping you guys updated on the construction progress down at our facility. Hopefully some of you guys have gotten a chance to drive over there and take a look. We've got a few photos here of some of the progress. To date, we're getting a lot of the beams up, which will be the base for our walls. So here in the next 30 days or so, we're going to start seeing some of the interior paneling and things going up. So it's really starting to look like a building now. You can actually see the real shape and the progress that we're making. Of course, this week was slow with the weather, but things are coming along pretty nicely. So we're excited to see that. And we've also been working on our new website, which we just launched. actually use some insight from the Sports Commission and a similar product to what they're using for their website, and worked with some insight from them. And we're still working on some updates, but this will be, another big step for us as we launch into advanced programs and more events and things like that with our new facility, trying to get this kind of more professional and more functionality for what we'll need for those new programs. And we've been working to go ahead and develop, trial out kind of some of those new programs, some different community programs, and kind of one-off, like Parents Night Out types of programs and things like that over this current year and this coming year, so that we'll have some of those under our belt, see what the feedback from the community is as we launch that new facility. A couple things that we can at least try to advance into that space as we move forward.
Right. I have been out there, and it does look really cool.
Yeah,
They're really making.
it's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is Scott, Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission.
Yes, sir. And since I was asked to give a presentation on our bidding, I'll be very brief on my other comments here. Just some upcoming events. The East Coast Invitational Basketball will be June 28th through July 1st, working with Wells Gulledge and Susan. That event will have 46 teams, and is always a great event. In July, also working with Susan and her staff, the senior softball folks will be back. Mr. Ken, you are too young for that group from what I saw out there last year, so they probably won't let you play. The football jamboree, August 9th and 10th. I may have mentioned this before, but we extended this to 2 nights this year to give us a better schedule, and it allowed us, we're going to have 20 varsity teams this year, where that number's been 16 or less in the past. And then the Bojangles Battle at the Beach in August is going to be a minimum of 36 teams. I think they still have teams trying to get in. And then the last thing I'll mention is our Moore Buick GMC New River Splash in September. Really excited about that. We've moved to the landing this year because of the construction of the marina, and the wildlife folks gave us run of the entire landing, which is very helpful. On that Saturday will be stand-up paddleboard races all day from kids up through adults, and then on Sunday will be a triathlon. So that's really 2 new events in one for that weekend. But I guess if you miss a meeting, you get volunteered to do a presentation, so I'm happy to do that. At the, I would have pointed out at the last meeting that we had Chris and Miguel in the boxing ring together, but no one would throw a punch. So it was kind of boring, but good event. So Glenda, I just hit, okay. So our bidding process, the way that works, really we kind of find out about events in 4 ways. The first is the National Association of Sports Commission's online database. Just about anybody that has events for bid lists their events on that database. Obviously, we call them national governing bodies. That's the groups that own these events. We may be on their email or mailing list. Obviously, if you've bid in the past, you know about those events. And then at national conferences such as NASC, Connect, Teams, and Sports is where we find out about a lot of these events. So here's the database I was just speaking of, an example of what that looks like. At any given time, obviously it fluctuates. There's about 80 events on there. Typically, we can bid on about 10% of those or less, and this goes back to the discussion we've had many, many times. It's facility issues. Now, also some of those events, just to be honest with you, they're going to Dallas and Atlanta, but a lot of the rest, even for cities our size, we're just lacking in some of the requirements for facilities. And then also, other factors are financial guarantees. These folks tend to ask for the moon because they know some city out there wants them, but we also try to be a little more frugal with what events we go after based on what they're asking for in return financially. So let me go back. If we click over there on View RFP, Request for Proposal, here's an example. So this is a USA Volleyball Girls National Championship. It's a 46-page RFP to give you an example of how detailed these things are. And if you look up there on the right, they're looking for 500 to 6,000 or 600,000 square feet. So obviously that's one we can't bid on. And there's a lot of those on there. And in my past, I've worked on NCAA bids that by the time we get done with our part of it, it's 50 to 100 pages. And they vary. I mean, some of them are 10 pages, some of them are massive. But that's an example of what, when you click on what you learn there. So the reason I missed the last meeting, we were attending the NASC symposium in Minneapolis. So along with education sessions and I guess networking, there were 125 national governing bodies there. As with that database, about 10% of those we could bid on. So while that number is small, here's some examples of some great leads that we developed. Spartan Race, NSA Softball, Beach Rugby, Fishers of Men, FLW Fishing, American Junior Golf Association, Tough Mudder. So, we'll go after what we can. And actually at noon today, we had a conference call with the junior golf folks, and they really want to come to Jacksonville. Apparently they were in Jacksonville years and years and years ago at Camp Lejeune, when you could just kind of come and go on base as you please. So we walked through the new rules there, and so maybe we'll be looking at the country club. However, they were super interested in being in Jacksonville. And so they're going to send us some more information, budget-wise, requirements. We'll look at that. But that really all came out of a conversation there at NASC. So, sitting in a bid is one thing, but when you develop a little bit of a relationship and some back and forth, much more effective. So because of, kind of our limitations on how many of those events we can bid on, that comes into play of the owned and operated events. And we've talked about that in here a lot. But if we create our own event, well, obviously we create it so we can do it. We also can't get outbid for it, and we can't lose it. And we totally control everything. So here's some examples of some of the owned and operated events. Now, we want to continue to bid on things, but if we have this staple of owned and operated events, and we supplement here and there with what we can bid on and what we can land, because obviously just because you bid on it doesn't mean you can always get it. So that's one of the reasons that we do the owned and operated. So here's two recent bids we submitted. Grand Fondo USA, which is a cycling series. They do a 30-mile, a 50-mile, and a 70-mile, and then on US Quidditch. We did not get Quidditch.
We didn't have enough rooms?
We didn't have enough rooms. However, while we were there at NASC, we were able to talk to them and ask why we didn't get Quidditch. The answer was a lack of teams in our area. They said it's growing, but right now they're just not seeing the number of teams, so they're keeping it. Well, to be honest, their headquarters are in North Carolina, and they've yet to have a regional in North Carolina. So it's Virginia gets a lot, Maryland. So they said keep bidding, it's growing, and eventually they think we'll get one. We did get the Grand Fondo bid. And that's an example of one of those sports development funds, because the bid for that we'll owe in 2019, they'll be here in 2019, will be $5,000. And so we're going to go up to Fredericksburg later in the year to see that event so that we can be prepared for. But that's a great one. That's one where you basically hand them $5,000 and some knowledge of the local community, and they come do everything else, unlike some of the others where you spend months and months getting ready for them. So that should be a good one. And then I just wanted to show some examples of our competition. So, and the thing I'll point out here, those pictures are not from Dallas and San Francisco. Those are places like Foley, Alabama, Burkesville, Kentucky, places that are sometimes our size or smaller, because they know, and that's why these folks also get these crazy people to pay whatever they want, because it's such a competitive market to get these sporting events. So again, and Susan can speak to this, if you're up against a city that has 14 softball fields in one location, and we're bidding and offering them 6 different locations, they're probably going to go for the convenience because they've got limited staff as well. But that's just an example. Thought I would throw that in there since we've talked about facilities a lot. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
I do have a question about the beach rugby.
Yes, sir.
I know rugby is all of a sudden kind of a hot sport in the United States. We wouldn't be competing with too many people. You need a beach.
That'll be a good one. I had a good, the person that was supposed to meet with that gentleman after me didn't show up. So we were able to sit there and talk a little longer. You have like these 10-minute meetings scheduled. And he is really just getting started. So he was very excited that we were there. We have a beach in Onslow County, and that we would be interested in bringing him in. And the rules are a little modified, but basically they use about the size, they'll get 2 rugby fields on about the size of what we would call 1 soccer field. And obviously our beaches are nice and wide, and that's definitely an event that once he really gets everything finalized that we'll be able to go after.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Good presentations. Donna?
My apologies for being late. I am never late to a meeting. I'm always early, but I was working with Miss Lisa Marabito over for the Quantico Marine athletes that are all coming into town today. So, and the traffic was kind of
AKA
bad.
John Copter.
Well, actually, I was in a tit for tat with him, I guess, kind of going back and forth. So she goes, "You gotta go." But she wanted me to share with you that this is the the third reunion that has come to the area. She's hosted 2 in May, and this is her third one for this month. They're getting ready to prep for the 53rd Montford Point Marines National Convention that's going to be here the last week of July. And it's going to kind of be a gifting ceremony where they're going to be giving the property back to the Department of Navy as well as the monument as well. So she said she'll have the economic indicators from the 3 reunions to present to you guys in June.
Great.
So she's busy running around like a little chicken with its head cut off, and I keep telling her to breathe, it'll be all right. But she's doing very well with this. I mean, I'm just kind of getting acquainted with all of this, but she's worked very hard, and this is her personal little baby, so got putting it all in it. But I mean, it's going very good, and as you just said, you're kind of sitting on something that's getting ready to go. Because I'm getting phone calls for people wanting, I guess, hearing about the reunions going on, wanting to advertise in all these publications that promotes military reunions. So the word is getting out.
We heard from our Columbus, Georgia friend, there's no shortage of ways you can spend money to recruit them. But
Yeah.
But the reputation
Are they calling
is
you
the
too?
greatest.
You have more
Reputation's the
money than I
greatest
do.
one.
I'm sending them to you.
Oh, call Donna. Well, as far as Onslow County Tourism, we finished up our budget yesterday, and we do have a couple of things that we're collaborating on with the city of Jacksonville, because we'll be promoting the same thing, so we're kind of upping the size and splitting the cost on it. So happy to do that, and we have a couple more projects that I'll be presenting to you soon that hopefully we can partner on. You were talking about the Montford Point Memorial. Visit NC had actually reached me. They're going to be bringing a tour up sometime the end of February. We have them for an hour and 45 minutes in Jacksonville, but they're wanting to come up and do the Montford Point Memorial and do lunch. So that's kind of one thing that we need to talk about as well. So, I mean, that's getting a lot of attention.
Thank
We
you
wanted
so
it to,
much.
Yeah, so anyway, just kind of still getting my feet in, getting wet, getting acquainted, and kind of getting to know the landscape. So, but very exciting and just very, very busy. Oh, yeah, I do have Bob Garner coming into town next week, as well as a film crew coming in to do some video footage for me. So they're kind of overlapping over the weekend. But he's coming in the 7th, and he'll be with us. He'll be leaving on the morning of the 10th. So I have a nice little tour all planned of kind of taking him all throughout our county. So he's pretty excited and going to need to be on the treadmill for a few weeks afterwards. So
Great. Thank you so much. Lorette, do you want to add anything? You're good?
We're busy.
Okay. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay, can we do occupancy tax collection?
we can do this very quickly
Real quick.
here. It's good news. You're up 8% over the same time a year ago.
Let it be noted that's under my leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
that's a 10.21.
I'm confident the minutes will reflect that.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, go ahead.
Anyway, but the lighter blue line there reflects what it is that's there, and the green line, to remember, is the Onslow historical high of 2 years averaged together. And so you can see this is this is good. This is really good. We're happy with this. We did want to show Western Boulevard. We've shown that in the past there. Obviously, it's 55% of your income for occupancy tax. Notice the darker blue line is back to fiscal year 11, our beginning year, the highest amount of occupancy tax that we ever collected at that time. And you'll see that at that moment, it didn't have the impact that the rest of the places had. But now that blue line, the lighter blue line, is far above where that was at the time there. So if we finish this year, we think that we're going to finish this year at least 6 to 7% higher. If we use at least what came in last year, it just comes in this year, we're going to finish 6 to 7% higher for the year. And of course, it could be better. don't know what's going to come from that as it was there.
Great report.
It's nice to see up numbers.
Thank you. And will you do our one city moment?
I will indeed. We chose for the One City Moment this year a tour that we did for some folks from Jacksonville, Florida. They came all the way from Jacksonville, Florida to meet X.Y. Brown. And they saw a story that was WRAL had done with the Tar Heel Traveler, and we shared it on our Facebook page, and they saw it, and they got up here, and this lieutenant was, she was the one that instigated this matter there, and they brought a crowd with them. The fellow that's in the back on the right there, his father was a Montford Pointer, and he had never been to Jacksonville, North Carolina. And he was extraordinarily interested in the Montford Point story and things like that. He's coming back in July.
That's awesome.
And to be a part of this as it was there. So we did our little sweat in our clothes tour, and we got them out to the memorials, and they were impressed. And they were impressed about how short our history is. Obviously, Jacksonville, Florida has a much longer history. Of course, they have 10 times as many people as we do. But they were there, and it was a wonderful experience hearing from people. They did have the T-shirts that said "I'm X.Y. Brown," out there, and it was a wonderful event, sir.
Thank you. Great report. Anybody have anything, directors?
Just want to remind everybody that we do not have a meeting in June. So I don't know, Donna, if we can hold that over till July, I guess, the information that she was going to give us.
I'm sure that probably would make Lisa very happy.
Tell her she's got an
Well, I don't
extra
know that you're,
30 days.
if you wait till July, that might be during the Montford Point folks being here, so you'll probably get me again. So I'll be providing the economic indicators.
Anybody else? Thank you, and thank you for all the hard work. It's obviously reaping some benefits, so thank you for all your efforts, and thank you all for being here today. If I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Good meeting.